So we're changing our style a little bit here as we come to the landmass. It's going to be less blended, less smudgy, and we're going to have a little bit more direct strokes. I am not so far using oil mixed with my pigments as I go into this. I need the value of this far bank of trees, hillside, what have you, to be quite a bit lower than the sky. Now when I paint it in, I'm going to stay darker at the top of these hills, but because the water is going to be picking up light, it is going to reflect back onto these trees, especially the ones that are closer to the water line. So even though by laying in a few brush strokes of this darker stuff, it's still going, I'm still going a little bit lighter, just a bit lighter than my wash in. But I've gone sort of mid values here, and I have room to play and to go lighter. So the values I'm going to play in this area and raise the values on the chroma in some places. I'll decide that later on. So I thought it would be best if I simply paint it in this area, and we'll get to the sky later. Oh, I've got a Rebel hair. It's a fairly new brush. And I'm using ultramarine blue and cobalt blue and a bit of burnt sienna, just to take the chroma out of those blues. It'll blend. It'll lean it a little bit towards green, which is just fine by me. And later, once I have this painted in, I can kick the value up a little bit and not include burnt sienna in my mixture. So just to illustrate, a bit of a lighter stroke there. Okay, my brush is so new that my strokes are very square, and I don't really think I want that. So I'll try to avoid making them too square. Now I don't mind them a little bit squarer because we're going to be working with the same brush when I paint in these trees and rocks. And then I like the square. I like the brush with shoulders. Okay, a little bit light, a little bit less light. Bit of shadow in this ravine here. There'll be a bit in here as well. It'll be a little bit darker. Trying to change the width of my strokes and the shape of my strokes a little bit as I go. my strokes. I sound so possessive. Okay. And we're varying, you know, the amounts of cobalt blue and white and ultramarine blue as we go. I would like to suggest that these more than just hillsides, I want to suggest trees on there as well. I want to show that. Without getting too much into detail. And I'd like to maybe leave the odd space dark in order to just to indicate that there's a trunk here and there. You know, a tree trunk, dead tree trunk, or what have you. A little bit of variety. It's so important not to just go, ooh, I like that stroke, or I like that color. I'll just do a whole bunch. Boy, you sure want to avoid that, because you will kill the area you're working in so quickly. Try to include a few shapes. Just keep it interesting. I'll work my way to the right here a little bit. We can go dark again because I'm going to start at the top. Not too dark, but oops, I trespassed into the sky there a little bit. It's okay, not going to worry about that. We'll sort those things out later. And just because in general we want to get a little bit lighter towards the bottom, it doesn't mean that every brush stroke along the bottom has to be lighter. Okay. A little darker again. Adding ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Here, we'll have a little bit of dark stuff here. I'll do that, and I'll do this. Oops, I think I'm going a little too far down. I'm feeling a sag here. Don't like that. No sag allowed. Because we're off in the distance. If we want to make a mistake on something, I'd rather have a hump than a sag. A hump rather than a sag. That's personal taste, but to me it makes sense too when you consider the curvature of the earth and everything else. I know it's a small thing, but boy, sometimes little things like that sure make a difference. So we've painted in this far shore, and I've left a fair bit of distinctive line. Some might get removed in the future, some might not. May use the odd bit of dark line and introduce maybe a bit of raw umber or something, just to indicate a trunk, or maybe not, I don't know. Now, as we've gone closer to this point of land, there isn't much in the way of line like this, because as we get closer to it, I've gone a little higher in value, and I've gone smoother in my technique because the texture is going to be in these rocks. So I don't want this kind of texture over here competing with whatever texture I'm going to end up with in these rocks. That helps to visually push that landmass back and bring this one forward. So that's pushed back. This will have to be even stronger than what I have here. But what I'm also going to do is the toilet paper trick. And I'm not trying to get rid of all the paint. I haven't scraped any paint off at all. I'm just going along where the shore meets the water and absorbing any textural bumps. Because what I'm going to do is reestablish my line. And I want it to be very neat because it needs to be strong. I'm not going to be very loose against that at all. This has to be pretty much the most accurate and cleanest line on the painting. So I've absorbed and removed that. Now I can go ahead and reestablish this line and then begin this section of water. I'll only paint the water up to here. Likely before I go into the trees.